Hi, this is Sam Stone with CBR here at New York Comic Con 2022 with the cast of Chainsaw Man streaming on Crunchyroll and Hulu on Tuesday, October 11th. Guys, thanks for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So this is one of the darker animes that, I have watched in recent memory, and yet there's still a lot of genuine heart. When you were going over the scripts or seeing the Japanese dub, what was your first impressions like looking at something like Chainsaw Man?
I mean, why I fell in love with it is that exact reason. I have always kind of gravitated to the darker things, but I'm a big softie at the same time, and I find that it really does blend. Every character has a depth to them, as well as this very incredible, loud surface layer. So you get so much to mine from that, and for as much as there is this really disturbing gore and all this violence, it is so counterbalanced by such genuine intimate moments and funny moments, and it, for something as extreme as it is, it feels so human.
Yeah. How did y'all find your respective voices for your characters? Was it like looking at the manga or listening to the Japanese dub, or was it just looking at the script?
I mean, it's kind of a combination of all three. I mean, you just you look at the character, of course. You know what age are they? What are the kind of habits? Like my character smokes, so that kind of brings a little bit to it.
So you took up smoking, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Very
Sorry,
method.
Mom.
How about y'all with Makima and Aki and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I have to mirror Reagan, and we take all these sorts of factors into consideration. With Makima, I just feel like she has this mystery to her that I, wanted to bring to it as much as I could. And yeah, just have her be very sweet, but also not really know what's going on with her exactly. So.
I brought in a bunch of chaotic energy plus self-centeredness, and I really do think that embodies her. She also seems like a really funny character, so I'm I just want to put all of these really fun things into it at once.
For me with Denji, I've had some pretty rough goes in my life, and I just really connected with someone who can persevere through hardships like that, and there's a resilience to him that I just really kind of admire.
I did want to expand on that because Denji, I don't think this character has been given a solid hand, hasn't dealt a solid hand his entire life. When we see him, it's rough, even before the chainsaw and the demons come into it.
I mean, if anything, that's the blessing.
Right. But more than just being resilient, he's cheerful. He still finds joy in having a dog that can live on blood. You know, how is it finding the joy through such hardship in those moments?
I think you're kind of nailing it on the head. Is when you live a life like that and you're just surrounded by darkness or a downtrodden experience of life. I think you actually notice the beautiful things in little ways. It gives you more ability to take note of the pacing of life and the little things that count, and it actually lets you appreciate things more because you realize by not having them how valuable they are when they come into your life.
As somebody that's interviewed the Dragon Ball cast, I'm always curious, in the booth, how do you maintain the energy and really the voice when you're doing a lot of the more intense, scream at the top of your lungs for your life moments?
I had a blast with this. So the trick with me is I actually was a singer in a lot of screamo hardcore bands as a kid. So I was screaming my head off like a pterodactyl when I was 15, 16 years old. And I learned how to do it safely. And when we were when I was doing the auditions, there was one line in particular that I knew had to kind of build and really rip at the end, and I just went full Screamo Boy on it, and it worked out. And when we were doing the sessions, our director Mike really, really looks after me. He takes care of me, and he'll intentionally book us an extra session instead of, hey, just scream through the next few hours. Even if I'm I'm still down to go, he's but we can save your voice.
Suzie, I'm curious, with somebody like Makima, she's very stern, but there's a vulnerability under the surface that we get hints of throughout the show. How do you layer that nuance into somebody that's outwardly very stoic and doesn't share a lot?
Yeah, she definitely has a lot of layers, and I have, Mike, our director, to thank for that, to help us kind of craft her character and make sure that she's not so one note, because there's a lot going on with her. You don't know exactly what at this point, but making sure that she is well-rounded, and that people can, connect with her, but also like not quite understand what's going on.
Right on, yeah. Reagan, like you were kind of mentioning, Aki's been around the bend a bit. Like he's seen some stuff. How is it bringing that kind of like world weariness, and yet that's still that sense that I still got a job to do, like to your character?
Yeah, I mean, there's just some people who will deal with their trauma by going to work. They just put everything they can into not living in that one moment for the rest of their lives, and making sure other people don't have to live through that moment themselves. I just really love how, he's got this spirit of protectiveness about him, and even underneath the surface of, sometimes he's very aloof and not very expressive at all, but you really get to peel back those layers eventually.
Sarah, you mentioned the chaos that comes with power, but more than that, I mean, in a lot of ways, power there's elements of tragedy to the character. There's elements where power challenges both the characters and the audience to rethink everything they think about devils in the show. How is it? I mean, that's a lot of different directions to take power. Like, how is it kind of like finding your performance there?
Well, to be honest, we haven't really worked too much on her just yet. So I can't really say too much on it, but gosh, yeah, she's got a lot of complexity to her. It was very interesting to find that she didn't basically two parts of herself, except for just for one cat. And let's see, well, I'm so sorry. Could you repeat it? I lost myself. I went into full circle.
That's the most power response you're gonna get right there.
I'm so sorry.
What was it
I
in
thought
character
about cats,
here.
and I couldn't think about anything else.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of dimension. There's a lot of dimension to
Yeah.
power. Like,
Yeah.
she
Right.
rethinks what we all think of devils in the show, because when we see them, they're like, oh, they just spawn zombies, and that kind of like craziness.
Oh, yeah.
Like, with that in mind, like, blending tragedy and heart to such a chaotic being. Like, how is it like layering that complexity into it?
That was really challenging. I had to do a lot of research on her, and I still had trouble trying to figure out where she was, but I could understand that she was a lot like a kid. Like, she just is very excitable, and there's still so much that we haven't learned about her, and it was so cool too to learn that she's more of she's a fiend, and I just keep losing myself.
Well, okay.
It's okay, I think that's all I've got, honestly.
Well, you all have done quite a bit of voice work and that sort of thing, and I find something fascinating about anime voice work is there's a performance that exists, but at the same time you're respecting the spirit of that, but adding your own voice. You were cast for a reason. How is it maintaining that balance?
It's actually really fun. I think it's always an honor because the original, hearing the Japanese voices, they're so wonderful. They're so good, and to be considered for something so special and to match up, it's that in itself is a really cool thing. And I personally, I let their performance always be a guide emotionally. But just like in anything, we want to make it our own. So it's about staying true. I think ultimately, all we're trying to do is stay true to the character. And it's about finding that middle ground that we connect with, on a soul level. And hopefully we can, find some really happy medium.
Just time for one more. What else can you all tease about Chainsaw Man ahead of its premiere on Crunchyroll and Hulu on October 11th?
A lot of chaos.
I think on that ominously bloody note, stay tuned. Chainsaw Man streaming on Crunchyroll and Hulu starting October 11th. This is Sam Stone with CBR here at New York Comic Con 2022. Guys, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much.
You.